Hello, in this video, we are going to talk about the math tools that are available on the state test. So as you step into the math section, there's a couple of features that I want to share with you. The first one, some people, not everyone, but some students will be eligible to have a number table and a multiplication table available to them to use during the test. To access those, you're going to see an icon at the top that will say number table or multiplication table. Not everybody has these, but for your student, if they're eligible and they have these, this is where they will find them. They'll click on the number table and it brings that up for them to be able to access. If they need the multiplication table, again, they click on it and it opens it up and it brings up that multiplication table for them to be able to help during any of the problems. Okay, the next thing I want to talk to you about is when you go to put the answers into this particular assessment question. So you're going to pick from the number here, you're going to type the number out, but then you have these tools at the top. So if you forgot to put a decimal and it's supposed to be 5.8, you can click the back button and it will move your cursor back one space. You can put in your decimal point and then you can move forward and it will take you to the end. Now, if you want to undo your last move, you can just click that undo button and it gets rid of that decimal. And then redo puts it back again. And then, of course, you have your delete button if you want to delete. So you're going to see these particular set of tools on a lot of the questions, the math questions on the state test. Another type of question that you're going to run across has to do with graphing. And so you're going to find a problem like this where you need to put points on the table. So a couple of things to note up here are the little tools that you're going to need to be able to do this with. So if you click on this first one, you're going to be able to come in here and click and drop. Oops, this is why we have to practice, right? So we're going to add an arrow and you can drag it to wherever you want to have it located. That brings up a second one. Now, if you get the second one and you're like, oops, I wanted to move that dot. I didn't want to have the second arrow there. What am I going to do now? And look, I keep adding all these things in here. You can click delete and then you come back and you click on what the point of what you want deleted and it will delete that for you again. And then you can come back and this first button right here means that you haven't selected anything, so you can click on things in case you just are like, oh, maybe here, and then you can add your arrow in. So that's one set of problems that you're going to find that have a different type of tool that you're probably not used to seeing with an online test. So sometimes on the test, you will be able to use a calculator. And if you're able to use a calculator for any of the questions, it will show up on that question. So for example, you'll notice at the top right-hand side where we had talked about the number table, the multiplication table, now I have a calculator button there. If it's there, you can use it. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on that calculator button and you can see it pulls it up here on my screen. Now this goes from a simple calculator to a pretty complex calculator. So if you are in an advanced math in high school and taking an assessment, you're going to want to use some of these other features over here. If you are just using it for basic calculations, then stick to the middle part. So how it works, I'm going to go ahead, let me pick an easy problem first. So I'm going to take 96 times 2. Now notice how it populates what I put over here, instantly calculates the answer for me on the right-hand side. And so here's my answer. Or I could click the blue arrow down below, the blue box with the arrow down below, and that will also give me an answer. Now, this little button over here, this copy button, I can click on that, and that means that that's now on my clipboard. So this particular question, I don't have a place where I need to put an answer, but if there was a place I needed to put an answer, I've now copied that, and then I'll be able to paste it into an answer that requires the number. So if I'm done with this and I don't want to see it anymore, then I can clear. Now that clears all, so that will clear the whole thing out. Or I can leave it on there, and pretty soon you will see several calculations moving their way up the board. So that's a way, if you want to calculate something, you need to calculate something else and then take those figures and use them together, you're able to do that. right here within your screen. Now, if you are using this for more complicated math problems, see this little toolbar right over here? If you click on that, that's going to turn it into complex mode. You have to toggle it on. That's where you can put things that have exponents or just some more complicated problems that you need to be able to answer questions to. Turn that on, and then that gives you the availability of using more complex tools within the calculator itself. All right, and then you can turn it off if you don't want to have that on. And you can see it gives you all sorts of options, and then you have your graphing calculator features, just lots of things going on here that you have access to be able to use. But again, if you don't need those things, don't turn those things on. You're going to want to go back to just being in the non-complex mode, and you're going to want to go back to your main calculator and just use your calculator pieces. Okay, so that's the calculator. Oh, one more piece. This little button right here expands it. So if you need to see it bigger, you can expand it, or you can make it smaller again. Okay, here is another example of a math problem that uses these tools in a slightly different way. So in this case, we are looking to put the exponents in here, and so they give you options of 0 through 9. So if you grab whichever one that you're looking and you move it around, you can see you're dragging it with you. You can plop it into the box you want to have it in, and then you have that piece ready to go to answer your questions. Now, if you change your mind and you want to change the answer, if you click in the box, it doesn't make it very easy to do so. You're still just kind of dragging it around. So you want to get rid of that 7, come up here, click on the delete. It brings up that little cross for you so that then you can delete that answer, and you can delete that one too if you want and start all over again. And then click back over here on this small little button, and that gives you the ability to pick those numbers again. Okay, in this problem, it is asking you to select the symbol. So they give you a box here, and you're taking this problem and you need to pick the correct comparison symbol to this part of the equation. So if I wanted it to be this one, I'm going to go ahead and click on it, and that's going to register my answer. Now, if I change my mind and I don't want it to be that, I can click off of it and it deletes that, and then I can reselect. But do be careful, because you can select multiple and then that is going to be a wrong answer, but it will let you submit it by putting all 3. So make sure that you have only selected one answer when you're doing these type of problems. Okay, so here we are with the graphing problem again. This time it's a little bit more complex, but if you make sure you read carefully at the top, if you need to add a point, that's where you're going to click on here. You can add a point, and then you can continue adding points as long as you have that selected. And then you can come in if you want to connect those things. Then you can come in and use your arrow, and you're just going to drag and drop that where you want the arrow to go. And then again, like earlier, if you want to delete that, you're going to come back, you're going to look for that plus sign, click on it, and it's going to delete that. And then you come back in here, the first little dot right here means you have nothing selected, so you can fiddle around on the graph and it won't drop anything on there. Okay, and one last thing that I want to bring to your attention. Again, remember, anytime you see the thin gray lines above or below a word, you can click on that and it's going to give you the definition of that. And particularly on the math section, in this case, it gives you the numbers. And those numbers can be super helpful and important when you're trying to solve these problems. So make sure you're looking for those and that you're clicking on those so that it gives you that information that's helpful to you when you're solving these problems. I hope that helped as we walked through the math tools that you're going to find on the math section of the test. Thanks for watching.